play a game, all right? On the count of 3, name your favorite dinosaur. Don't even think about it. Just name it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Velociraptor.
Favorite non-pornographic magazine? 2.
Good Housekeeping.
If you were a chick, who's the one guy you would sleep with?
John Stamos.
What? Aha!
Cranberry juice.
It's natural diuretic. My girlfriend drinks it when she's got her period. What, do you get your period?
What are you drinking? Cranberry juice. What is it, your period?
Aha! All right, guys, here we go. We got the top 6 answers on the board. Name something that gets passed around. Chris.
A joint.
A joint.
Aha!
You know, we have a lot of expressions in the English language.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
What are we talking about?
Where'd that come from?
Most all of us use them every day.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means.
You know, we just say them as if they really made sense.
I mean, how silly is that?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
What the is he talking about?
Yo, what is good? You know what it is. You know who it is. It's me, Mario, and welcome to the Appraise the Phrase show, origins of everyday expressions, where we're here to do 3 things: unveil the origin, confirm the meaning, assess the value of common everyday phrases. Big dog still in the building somehow. 4 seasons in, we still locked in. 20, what's good, brother?
Yo, what's good? What's going on, man? How you feeling today?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm not gonna timestamp it, but got to kick it with you a little bit recently. Very recently.
Yeah.
Loved it, man.
Definitely needed.
Yeah, man. Give me the takeaway. Give me a philosophical takeaway.
Nah, man, you know what it is, man. Sometimes we spend most of our time on the computer, man, talking to each other through the computer, man. And sometimes it just feels good to kind of like get out of that norm and actually, get personal. So it was really good to kind of like talk to you outside of the phone, but actually like man to man, face to face. So I think that was my favorite part about it.
Real talk. You know what I felt like? Remember Hook? When the little boy grabbed, rest in peace, grabbed Robin Williams' face. That's what I was going to do.
There you are.
There you are, 20.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's how it was too as well, man.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it was.
Yeah, man. It was good to see you. Good to see the little ones, man. Good to get out. What's up, man? All right, let's get into it. Today, we are here to have another fun conversation. We have somebody on the show today that I'm really, really excited to talk to, explore phrases with, have y'all hear from. I sat down with this man. It was a little bit cold, so it had to be March-ish. I feel like in New York. Great conversation, and I'm like, hey man, if you can spare some time, you got to join us on the show. So without further ado, I want to have y'all stand up for my guy, longtime digital professional and current digital consultant, Ken Gibbs Jr. is in the building. Ken, what's going on, brother?
All right. I was waiting to see what was going to be next right there, whether you have the applause sound effect or all that. But nah, man, hey, thanks for the warm welcome. So glad to be here. It was great meeting you as well, and I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation.
Man, absolutely. For the folks, man, that so they can know how proud I am to have you on the show. Tell them a little bit more about your background, what you're into, anything you want to platform.
I mean, long story short, I've been doing this for a long time, right? And the one thing I can proudly say is I've probably worked at nearly every one of the top tier Black media brands out there. My career began out of Boston, Cambridge, to all my Bostonians, before they call me on that. Began over in the bridge working with Henry Louis Gates on Africana.com. Africana was purchased by Time Warner shortly after that. And we then were absorbed into AOL after Time Warner was purchased by AOL. So that really took me and my career and team to AOL Black Voices,
Nice.
where we built out that entire property. From there, I went on to work with the team over at Interactive One, Kathy Hughes, Alfred Liggins. So Interactive One is now iOne Digital, I
Yep.
believe, but I was like one of the first 10 employees over there. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So started all of those sites and News Ones and what have you there. From there, I went over to Essence. Basically, managed a digital footprint for the Essence Music Festival. Everything that was paid and digital. None of the editorial content,
Yeah.
but things like the Will You Marry Me contest and all of those things. From there, dipped my toe back into the entrepreneurial space with Loop21.com. Claim to fame there. One of the first 3 people that I hired was Wesley Lowery. He's like 2 Pulitzers in at this point. But Wesley found George Zimmerman for us, right?
Wow,
so it was like this little site who suddenly had a reporter that was on Hannity, Combs, CNN, all of these things as well. But the industry was shifting. So I took my talents to where the video was in abundance. And I was over to BET because monetization in the digital space was then shifting from like display ads to all video, pre-roll, all that. So really wanted to go there and not only learn more about video, but lend my expertise to the network to really help them kind of remain in that conversation. I was at BET for almost 10 years, right? Just under 9 years.
Wow.
Essentially, I was the first VP of social media, so social media and digital video marketing strategy. A shout out to Vicky Free and Eddie Hill, who gave me the role over there and the opportunity to really have a lot of fun. And went from there on to Amazon, where I essentially had a very similar role on the Prime Video team, and to Spotify, where I was there first, global head of social media. I had a stint at Ebony as well, helping them really kind of understand the opportunity at hand and the situation that the business was in. And now I'm currently independent consulting. If you're in the New York area, you'll check me at the Digital Marketing World Forum. I'll be moderating panels there and later in September, all of which can be found on my LinkedIn.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you. That's why the tickets were sold out today. Sit down, y'all. The tickets were sold out today, man. Appreciate you. We can't wait to, as we go and explore this phrase that I have today, some of these nuggets from your experiences, the storytelling shows. We want any stories you got, any connections. So let's jump into it, man. So knowing on this show today, having you on here, I want to make sure that I explore something that I could, not to say I'm against, I'm actually not opposed to this one, to this phrase. I'm curious and I want to antagonize it a little bit to see if it shines through the fire, see if it can go through the gauntlet. So today we're going to unveil the origin, confirm the meaning, and assess the value of great minds think alike. Okay, great minds think alike.
And then 8 bars, I'll explain that phrase.
What we'll do first, Ken, we're going to just touch base on our connection to it, how we feel about it when we hear it. I'm going to have 20 pop us off. What are your thoughts on great minds think alike, bro?
Oh, man, that's I think that's definitely one that still kind of like resonates with me. I think it's just one of those situations where, say, if you and somebody has that same idea, honestly, it could even be like the smallest idea, but it's like it feels good to say that when somebody says it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if it's like a situation where you have someone agreeing with you, that's when you kind of like say it like in agreement, like, oh yeah, man, great minds think alike. You know what I mean? Like not even a situation of even knowing that person had any thought, any kind of similar thought as you, but it's just it kind of gives that backing of, yeah, man, I support what you're thinking and how you think too as well. So.
Word.
And that's all I have to say
about that. Ken, you go ahead. I have my thoughts, so you go ahead.
Okay. Since you said you want to antagonize it, I feel like we might be aligned on this in some way.
Yeah.
But so a phrase I'm obviously familiar with, but one that after you said it, I was like, oh, I've actually never said that in my life in real life, right? And I think the reason is because when I hear that, like, great minds think alike, and I'll just be 100. To me, it sounds like some bullshit that people use to hide the fact that they've got shared perspectives and ultimately possibly hidden agendas, right?
Yeah.
Because I think thinking alike, what we think is informed by our perspective, right? Yeah. And if we've got a shared perspective, doesn't necessarily mean that we're a great mind. It means that we've got a shared perspective, right? And that shared perspective could be a negative, right, and detrimental to the masses, right? So that's the first thing that just comes to mind organically for me.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Hey, so this I'm right there, not in the middle between you two, but I want to touch on the things you said. For me, it's like if I can throw a question mark on the end of some of these phrases that like say it like it's batting 1,000 from the field, I always want to nudge it. You know, if it's walking past me in the hallway, I'm gonna bump it and see if it stands its ground. You know, so for me, like both of you actually leaned on the alike part. Is where it gets most of its juice. The great mind part, I'm like, hey, what's the qualifier? How far are we going? How alike? And usually it's like after someone says something else. Like it never is. How do I put this? I don't want to say that the third party doesn't usually say it. What I'm saying is that if a third party is saying it, we cannot confirm how much alike these great minds are. So I'm like, all right, I got to figure out who said this, how we get here, because people really run with it. I think it's one of those phrases that people actually buy into subconsciously. I really do.
I don't know if it's that I buy into it. I just think people just say it just to make the person feel good about saying the same thing.
I'm with that. All right, let's go. Let's get into the dictionary definition and see where we can ground this from. So we got usually 2 or more. So this week we go running with Cambridge Dictionary, one of my favorites, and they said that it means to have said to someone just after you have discovered that they have the same idea as you. So it's an after the fact type of deal from Cambridge Dictionary standpoint. Now I found the Land Geek Dictionary, which is not as new as one would think. And they define it as said used to suggest that intelligent or creative individuals often come up with similar ideas or solutions, especially when faced with a particular problem or challenge. Now they went very specific, and so going in not reverse order, but Ken, I'll lay it up to you first. Tell me what stands out between the two, which one you're leaning towards. If you're not rocking with either, talk to me.
Well, I would think it's the first one you said. Can you repeat that one again?
Yeah, Cambridge said it's said to someone just after you have discovered that they have had the same idea as you.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, that is in line with what I said initially, right? Like, it's a persuasive tactic, all right? Like, that's, and part of this, I'm definitely biased, like, my job and career is to convert people to gold through content, right? And it's like, oh, if I'm trying to convince you of something and you say something that basically convinces me that you're on my side of the argument, I'm going to give you a statement of affirmation, like, oh, great minds think alike, right? Like, you're just like me. We're on the same page. I just put you on this side, right? And to me, that's all it is.
That's all.
Right.
20. Where you at with it? Where you at with the definition?
No, that's same thing. And it's like it's not like it's more than one concept where you are thinking alike. It's not like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's just that one idea, that one concept where it happened to coexist, that happened to align, where you're like, oh, great minds think alike, because you're not thinking like this person the rest of the time. You're not thinking like this person the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like, just that one moment in time where you guys are lined up, that's where it kind of fits. And that's where it's like fluffed it up. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's going to fluff it up and say, oh yeah, like Ken said, man, yeah, man, like we're on the same team for now.
Exactly.
For now, for this moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also some subtext of a social imbalance there, right? Like, because what I'm also saying is that I'm the great mind.
Right.
That's established, right? And you too are like me. Right?
And you two also are like me. It's not saying you're great. Your mind is great. Your mind is similar to mine.
To my mind. And that's where I'm at with it. So Land Geek went with something that I'm like, when I say people buy into it, I'm glad you called that out. I mean, this interaction that y'all are describing. I think the recipient of it takes it, especially if the idea at hand is advantageous, right? If it's like at an opportune time where you're like, okay, even okay, I'll lower it down. Even if it's the same, like y'all want to go to the same restaurant, and you use it like, bam, they want you. You know what? I thought that, and now you thinking that. What great minds thinking like, and the other person is like, you know what? I am.
It's like the greatest compliment a narcissist can give you. It's like the greatest compliment a narcissist could give you, bro. Like that's like the greatest compliment to say, you know what, man.
You might can hang with me, man. You might can You might can hang with me. So,
I'm low-key still not complimenting you. I'm just saying, man, you know what I mean? Like you thinking like a great mind.
You think
like a great mind, you know what I'm saying?
And me,
not that you got one. Not that you got one. Because not that you got one, because in the saying, it's saying that I have one. Like you say, Ken, like I have a great mind. But at this moment, you got it. You got it.
Exactly. So I'm like, how did we get here? So we might as well, unless you got something, Ken, let's jump into this origin.
No, I'm right on it.
Let's do it. Because I'm like, how?
Where'd that come from?
All right. So we're going to start in the 17th century, and that's where we're talking about like it actually being recorded and supported. You know what I'm saying? The ideal. And it was actually written impressively by Dabridgcourt Belchier. And he wrote this in a novel called Hans Beer Pot. And this was in the early 17th century, 1600s. And in the verse, he says, though he made that verse, those words were made before good wits do jump, or jump, right? So good wits do jump is the variation, the very first variation. And so jump at this time is gone, but it means to agree with or completely coincide. So if you jumped with someone's mind, if this mind jumps with mine, they completely coincide and they agree with it. All right, so Belchier, Dabridgcourt Belchier, he was an English dramatist, and Hans Beer Pot is his invisible comedy that at the time wasn't really hitting for nothing. So he actually hung himself in 1621, Belgium.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's the irony in this is kind of funny because in this play, this comedy, this book, Hans de Pot, the character gains the power of invisibility, and he goes through a series of chaotic events, some funny, like meant to be funny, and it revolves around the idea of when one is invisible, how he will act or misuse the power in social situations, avoiding responsibilities, creating funny stuff happening for his own benefit, problematic stuff for his own benefit, and then like what people didn't get at the time, which they get now. Belchier was trying to basically compare like how people act when they can be seen or when they have to face reality or when they don't. And so in the play and in this book, he actually was sarcastically saying this because he thinks it's based on circumstance. So that's where it drops. and he didn't get to defend this work. This is obviously, pulled based on his other writings, but Belchier basically was like, this is a general idea that is had, but put a man in a scenario where there's nothing holding him to what greatness is and what the social capital of being alike, what would they do? Right? So that's kind of where it starts. And that led me to want to ask two things. First, I'll start with Ken. How would you use the power of invisibility? Like if you were invisible, how would you use it?
I mean, I'm American, man. I think anybody who says anything aside from getting money is lying.
It's lying, bro. It's lying, bro. It's lying. It's lying. Yeah. It's lying.
Like what Rap Man said recently on Drink Champs about Supercell, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the first thing anyone thinks of when they get a superpower is to put on a cape and tights, right? Like if I was invisible, I would walk into the bank.
I would go make my life better.
I am thinking that even before when he's talking this whole concept, I'm like, man, I wonder how this nigga walked into a bank. How would he like this is what this is like? I don't know why. Well, I know why, but still, it's just a situation of that's the first thought you have to think of. You have to think of it.
So,
yeah.
With that said,
hey, you know what, Ken? Great minds do think alike.
With that said, how many people out there do you think is going for that? And what does that say about
I mean, I think that was a perfect question, right? Because just as you asked it, I was thinking about the creator's breakdown or definition of it, right? And I was like, it's much more on a human level, right? Because when I think of this, I'm like, well, invisibility is not going to help me be a better parent. Like we got all the goddamn cameras, mics, and all this stuff. We already know what they're doing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like really. I'm not a teenager, so I'm not going to be like, I'm going to go into the girls' locker room.
Right.
Like, nah. Like, I need to get some money.
Yeah, so, literally make my life better. Literally make my life better. 20. Is that what you was on?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And the crazy thing about that is that even with invisibility, you probably don't need a lot of money. Like, just realistically, you probably don't need a lot of money to do things, but it's just like a situation of, I just, you know what I mean? Like, that's the first thought that you think.
My thing is, I get what you're saying. How often do you want to be invisible? Is I think what you do with the invisibility. Do I want to be invisible one good time or like maybe 6 times? I got 6 licks to hit. Then I want to live a regular life.
Yeah. So you're trying to turn it off and on.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and this is what the play like wants people to talk about. Like, really, what would you? How many responsibilities would you start to avoid? How many times do you want to be invisible? Is how I take that. Like, how many times do you want to not be in reality in your lived experience before you're like, you know what? I'm just an invisible guy. No nothing. Yeah. I'll camp out at people's houses. They'll never know.
Yeah, but see, I think in that it's to his point, right? Like, well, I want to be comfortable, right? So sure, you said there are many things, there are few things that you would need money for if you are invisible. So, okay, I can walk into the NBA Finals game if I'm invisible, right? But we can't sit down in the front row and enjoy it because we're invisible, right? So walking into the bank is going to make the most sense, all right? But now if you're giving limitations on how many times we can do this, we don't want to have to walk into a bank every few months or years, right? So now it sounds like we're going to have to walk into Fort Knox, right? Yeah. Because gold will be much easier to turn into cash over the long run. Right? So the answer is going to be money always. We're just going to have to think this out.
Yeah. All right, bet. That's cool. All right, now, thank you for leaning into that. Now, in your own lives, where have you seen, because the other part of this story is like how people respond to things that they can see, either how they treat things, people, when you're seeing like kind of like that character. Your character is blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Share your experience. Ken talks to you again. Share an experience where you treated something differently based on visibility or lack thereof, or you were treated differently because maybe people thought they never get caught or never. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, so full disclosure, I went to school for English, so I'm an English major. There's no way you mention invisibility without thinking Ralph Ellison and the Invisible Man.
That is
right.
True. That is true.
So, and most recently, I thought of that in a few different instances. Well, it was one overarching concept, and I think really that was the book Traffic. It's about kind of early internet history, Gawker, all that stuff, right? I listened to the author on a few podcasts, and the timeline was right in sync with my career, right? So listened to it, and it was like a play-by-play for the early days of the internet, right? Like I was like, oh, I remember when that happened. But what was interesting, I think, when I got to the end of the book was that in his world, I didn't exist, right? No work done by myself or any Black digital brand was mentioned at all.
Wow.
Right? No YBF, no Nah Right. And I'm not going to like bring the ComScore numbers up or anything like that at the moment. But the fact is that these brands were impactful, right? As all cultural creations from the Black audience are, right? Yeah. So not noticed until their tactics are adopted and integrated into the mainstream, yeah. Often by other products. And so it made me think about that.
Gotcha.
Right. It really made me think. I was like, wow. And from a career standpoint, I think people step into careers wanting to be professionals within those categories, not wanting to be the Black professional within that category. Right. Yeah. And I've been doing this for over 25 years. Right. And I've literally had experiences where I have been in the office of executives for interviews at mainstream publications, outlets, what have you, and they look at my resume and would say like, we don't do that Black stuff here, right? And I'm just like, yeah, like it's not 1960 something,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But that combined with just the realities of this book and the conversations that were being had around it. And just other things that had happened throughout. Like one time I was in Illinois or Iowa actually, around Iowa caucus time. And we had set up a sit down interview. This was back when I think Ben Carson was still like a candidate or something, right? And it was a BET sponsored thing. And one of the people coming in for the audience, because it was streamed live, they were like, what is BET? But it was a white person.
Yeah.
Right. And it just, again, reminded me that as people of color, we live within a white world in which we must be aware of all that they're doing, right? From that mainstream level. You can't walk around like what's NPR? Well, maybe NPR, but like what's CNN?
Yeah.
It's always this constant reminder, right? That if you're looking for a career and a lifestyle of scale, something to be cognizant of is that, what is done for minority brands, publications, people of color oftentimes isn't seen or acknowledged, right? By the mainstream. So there is this sense of invisibility, whether it's purposeful or not. But the topic of invisibility doesn't come up without me thinking of those things.
That's real.
Wow.
That's real. Hey.
I don't even know if I can.
I was gonna say, I got you, bro. I got you.
My experience is this old lady cut me in line at McDonald's, and I was like, "Bitch, you don't see me here.
You don't see me.
You see me right here, standing right here, bitch. Do you not see me standing right here?" I feel like I can't even tell you my experience, man. After that, man,
brother. First of all, A1. But dog, that was lots of things But most recently, yes,
No,
that.
that's what's up, kid. But no. Seriously, like that's a awakening type of feeling because we've all felt that way. Like recently, we've all felt that way. It's like, man, how do you not know of this person?
Right.
But you got to realize that, man, we're all visitors, man.
We're all on somebody else's.
Damn, Ken, now you about to go make me enlighten some motherfuckers today, man.
See?
I'm just saying. I bet they know who LeBron is. I bet they know who Jay is.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It's an age old tale.
It gets like that. It really gets like that.
Oof.
I know. All right, jump into about another 100 years, because again, this play was not popping. This book and written book play was not popping till later. So Laurence Sterne in the mid 1800s, 1761, he said a similar adage in The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman. Now, there's another story using great wits jump for the moment. Dr. Slop cast his eyes upon his bag. The very same thought occurred. So they're using this thing as like, if you have something with you, clever minds, wittiness, they coincide. So let me build the case with Sterne and this book, which is, let me repeat it again, The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman. So Sterne was an Anglo-English novelist. He wrote a few novels. The one that I mentioned is one of his most popular. The other is A Sentimental Journey Through France and Italy, which he published sermons and memoirs and indulged in local politics. So this is where he started to get some social capital because he was willing to get into political game. He also came from a military family. So that's why he was mostly in Ireland and a little bit in England. Now, this book that the quote comes from is mainly known as Tristram Shandy, and it was published in 9 different volumes. The first 2 appearing mid-1700s, and then the rest coming after. And what this thing did, especially the second few or the last few volumes, is it introduced the idea of a biography, like faux biography. So as the character, we're supposed to believe that this character is in ways Sterne, but he is not. And it also came in and it added digression as a written form of writing. So a lot of digression, like getting off the point, a lot of double entendres, which the hoes love, 20, and graphic devices. Ken, we were in another life, we realized based on just our observations of songs and cleverness, we're like, hey man, the double entendre, you know who love that?
They do. They love them. They love them, man. And life, you know, too as well. They love it. Hey, you say something but mean something else. They love that shit.
They love it. And my man Sterne in Tristram Shandy locked this in. So I'm gonna give you a real quick rundown of this novel. Taking it back, let me keep it connected. That Dr. Slop is considered one of the great minds. Okay, so like he's in this story. So the story is this faux biography, where it basically accounts for humorous like mishaps that shaped this guy's life. So the first is that while he's still like in the womb basically of his mother, during implantation, she was like kind of disturbed. She ran into some issues, and at the very moment of procreation, his mother asked his father if he had remembered to wind the clock, and that distraction is said to throw off the balance of the child. So like, child's already gonna be fucked up because the mom's mind isn't on it. So that's the first like thing to say, like, all right, this kid, and they digress. Like the point of the story, like they digress from that. And then the second thing is that his father has a theory that a large and attractive nose is important to make a man a man. Like he would get through life. He had a nice, strong nose. So, of course, because of this difficult birth that came from the mom talking about this clock, Dr. Slop grabs the baby by the nose and like crushes the nose with the forceps as he's trying to take him out. So now the kid, you know what I'm saying, another strike against him. Sucks. Life's gonna suck. Third, another of the father's theories is that a person's name. It's how you're going to move and shake in the world. Lots of influence. So he said the worst possible name that a kid can be named is Tristram. Obviously the name of the book. So Tristram's father agreed that he would receive a name that basically would never be repeated, like one of one. So they named him Trismegistus. But Susanna, Dr. Slop's support nurse, mangled it on writing it and put Tristram on the birth certificate. So now life sucks, according to his dad. And then finally, as a toddler, Tristram suffered an accidental circumcision when Susan let the window sash fall while he was urinating out of the window into a chamber pot. So
what is man, wait, I'm so sorry to cut you off, Mario.
No, that's it. That's all 4 mishaps.
Okay, all right. I was just about to say, what's going on? What's going on with this character?
So the character basically is an example of how the belief in Dr. Slop goes with this father's theories. The father's the great man, and throughout this thing, Dr. Slop is obviously rocking with him, but he's also him and his assistant ruins the kid's life. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's a play on, because both of these are comedies of their time. It's a play on the idea that great minds think alike, that great witted folks think alike. Now, I do want to ground this in some other reality by talking about how this was received. George Washington liked the book, GW, and we're gonna get back to GW in a second. The young Karl Marx, he was a devotee to the book, and he wrote unpublished short humorous novels based on this work. Wolfgang von Goethe, do you remember him, 20? It's okay if you don't.
No, I remember the name.
Yeah, so he was actually part of what made Tell Me Who You're With, that long, super long phrase. He popularized that one. Praise Sterne and one of the books. And then that book influenced Nietzsche's writing. So wow. Sterne got a little bit of clout off of this book based on how he wrote it to kind of, again, make fun of the wise people of the time. And this book is also is a formalist, and other literary critics say it's a forerunner of the narrative devices used in certain modernist styles. James Joyce, Carlos Fuentes, Salman Rushdie, to name a few. And he also strongly influenced Cervantes' Don Quixote, which in season 2, we let folks know that Cervantes is only a V because the printer changed the B to a V for no reason. All right. So
Ain't that some shit?
Ain't that some shit? All right, before I go to thoughts on again, the play on the idea that great minds think alike in this iteration of it. Ken.
I'm not sure I follow this iteration as closely as I did the other one.
So how I take it is that it's meant to take a child's life, because most of this book is around these incidents. It hardly ever talks about him as an adult. And takes these incidents and drives home the fact that a lot of it surrounds what his father thinks and how the people that his father surrounds himself with supports these things, and how they actually came true, or the opposites came true in his life.
So is it like satire? Was it like satire against what is?
Yes, basically, like,
okay,
because the wisest of the wise, but all the opposite happened. And this is what we're supposed to believe. This person's life is now bad.
Yeah,
because of like this wise thought.
Oh, so it's a total. It seems like it's the total opposite of the first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. He's not with it.
So now I get it. Now I can kind of like visualize it too as well. Like Ken, if you don't mind, I feel like it's a situation where it's like, yeah, you got these wise men that say it has to be this, it have to be this, it have to be this, it have to be that. And the kind of crazy thing about it is like everything that you're saying that has to be, your son has totally opposite.
The opposite. The opposite. Your son ends up, but they're mishaps. So it's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like it just so happens that all these things that it takes to be the best or good or successful, your son has none of them.
Wow. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. So like,
And
how
that's-
wise can one be?
Yeah. To me, I guess that doubles down on why the statement is kind of bullshit, right? And yeah. And,
Yeah,
and
no,
I
no,
just
no,
spoke-
King, you ain't gotta explain
Lean
yourself.
in,
No,
yeah,
you're
lean
right.
in,
You're right.
lean into that.
Don't worry. We ain't into that on this show. If we feel a certain way, we
Yeah, go ahead,
That's
man.
how we feel.
It's like, so in the beginning, I said it really just sounds like you're trying to get somebody on your side, right? Because they've shown a similar perspective, right? So especially, I think when you get to the wisdom aspect of it, in which you're talking about a certain perspective that's generally only attained by, a certain amount of time on a planet, right? It almost means that it is automatically destined to come into conflict with the perspective of the youth. Right? Like, this is something I got to think about as, I'm from Mattapan in Boston. I live in Jersey today. It is not like Mattapan in Boston, right? And I got a 14-year-old boy out here. I have to come to grips with the fact that he's going to have a very different perspective than me. And not only that, like, times are changing. Period. And so I find myself often having to keep an open mind to those things, right? Like, there may have been certain things that may have destined you for certain outcomes when I was younger, particularly amongst your male peer group.
Right.
That's changed today.
That's
correct.
Right?
Correct.
So I can see how all you could be like, oh, well, if you do this, you do this, you do this, that's where you're going to end up. Like, that might be the path to success today.
And look, I gotta stop you there because you said a couple things. You said a couple things that I want to. Great minds must think alike. No, because let me. I had to lay that ground for this next thing, which is actual tangible material impact. So Sterne wrote this, and remember, we listed off all the influences that he had. So Sterne publicized on July 1766, July 27th, a response to Sancho's letter. I don't know if y'all know what Sancho's letter is, but it's an integral part of 18th century abolitionist literature. I had to research this. I couldn't believe it, actually, right? So Sterne, at the height of debate about slavery, Ignatius Sancho, he was a British abolitionist, and he was a writer and composer. He was born on a slave ship. Then he got sold to the Spanish folks in New Granada, and his folks died, and so his owner at the time, because you know what I'm saying, he was now fully with no parent protection, owned by this guy, took the 2-year-old orphan and took him to Britain, and he gave him to his sisters. So like, now you got a baby slave, you can do whatever you want with him. Where he remained for 18 years, he hated being their servant, so he ran away to Blackheath, where he met John Montague. And he was a second Duke, and Montague taught him how to read, right? So this is how, like, Sancho became very well versed, and he understood. Like, he comes from it, he understood, and so he was all about one of the leading abolitionists. So because of all this idea from this book, Sterne's starting to get popular. Sterne's already like I'm not going with the general idea of what a great mind thinks. Because again, at this current time, the great minds believe slavery is cool, right? So he's like, hey, I write him a letter to encourage him to use this platform to lobby for the abolition of the slave trade. And he responded by saying, that subject handled in your striking manner will ease the perhaps many, but only one gracious God, and what a feast to benevolence here. So basically, Sancho's like, hey, man, if you got it in you, do it. Sterne read it, loved it, and he actually created a character, Corporal Trim and his brother Tom, in the next writing. And Tom described the oppression of a black servant in a sausage shop in Lisbon, where they were talking, and Sterne basically used that part of the story to prop up and begin abolitionist voice in popular writing. And it was a tale of like basically a poor Negro girl. And they were like, man, as a general, with all this going on, they were like, oh man, America sucks, America sucks, America sucks. We got to stop this. And he was like, okay, if we can see the humanity in this and we can stop all this from going on, it's our duty as a people to fight for the humanity of black people. So Sterne actually used this voice to, in his anti-great mind theory, his anti-great mind way of being, to take on slavery.
So hopefully, like he actually used it as a pretense instead of an after fact.
Yeah. So he was like, okay.
That great man. He was hoping that great minds would think alike with him and get to.
That's not what my takeaway when I read the letter, to be honest. My takeaway was that he was like, I don't know if this is going to do anything, but because I'm aware and you're saying I should, and then I think about it, I don't rock with it. He called it a tragedy of the world. He said it's a stain on the world, slavery is. Mm-hmm. And so because of this stain on the world, I have to write this. Because it is, you're right, it is a stain on the world. And I hope we meet someday, basically, is what Sterne said to him. So I don't know if he was hoping it picked up as much as he was saying, if I do have a platform and I don't rock with this, then I might as well be involved with that.
I get it.
I thought it was kind of on like how you were saying, Twinning, that it was satire and that and not having the full context of the piece with the girl in the sausage shop or whatever, but thinking that, since slavery is the dominant position of the day, that to kind of go against it or highlight how inhumane it is actually gives everyone reason to question the true wisdom of these great minds. Like, and I'm just thinking more so like, Huck Finn type shit.
Yep.
Where it's, there is obviously a lot of humanity in Jim in this character. And if we are all these great minds, how come we're only saying they're 3/5 of a man?
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I was going with it, Ken. It's like that is it. Now we could be totally wrong, but it just seems like he was hoping that it sparked another great mind, that sparked another great mind, that sparked another great mind. And who's to say it didn't? Who's to say it took somebody of that stature to say this is wrong? And that's kind of like how it kind of really became intuition. It took somebody of a higher stature to say, you know what, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. And then somebody else is like, you know what, you're right. You know what, you're right. No, you know what, you're right. Until a point where it's more people, you start to see more people speaking out against it. And that's with anything, not just slavery, but that's with anything. You know what I mean? Like you don't, you might internally think something is a problem, but it always helps to speak on it if somebody else feels the same way. Cause it's like you be like, oh, is it me? Or I might be tripping. You know what I'm saying? It's just me. Or when you put that kind of thing on something, it's like, hey, let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong type of deal. You're looking for that I want to say the verification. I don't know. You're looking for something for someone to say, nah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You get what I mean? And that kind of empowers that thought because there was someone else that said, you know what, you're not wrong. And it kind of fuels you to kind of like go against the norm and stuff like that. So
one of the things that when facilitators, especially young people, when I like rock with them or I notice one thing that they do well is when they encourage questions, they say, please ask your question because you're probably and highly likely not the only one with it.
Right.
Ask your question so that other people can like get the party started. You know what I'm saying? Like if you
feel comfortable asking questions.
Yeah. So it's like in that realm, Sterne was like, you know what? As a writer that's picking up, who also he wasn't really aware. He's so much of I don't want to call him anti because I didn't get that from what I was reading, but he's so in his own way that he was not aware of his rising influence. He's just doing what he believes to do. And so he's like, I might as well say this thing and get it going. And in an ironic twist, he probably was hoping other great minds think alike. Now, the think alike version wasn't found in print until a little bit after that, 1816. And the earliest example was in Carl Theodor von Orlansky's biography, The Woeful History of the Unfortunate Eudoxia. And this is a play that explores human suffering. So I don't know why this phrase has so many, like, using it to describe society, the state of society, in a way that isn't direct, I would say. But it's exploration of human suffering and all the harsh realities faced by individuals caught in a web of societal expectations and personal misfortune, and how those think alike respond alike to those scenarios, taking it all the way back to what the first guy was trying to say. Like, you could say what you want about great minds think alike. It goes situation to situation. So let's see. Oh, okay. So there was another dude, Thomas Paine, who was an English-born revolutionary that was referenced in this book, who became one of the founding fathers of the U.S., who has a different response to the great minds think alike theory. His take is simply this: they do not. He wrote this a lot, and he expressed it in the opinion of the 1792 political pamphlet, The Rights of a Man. And he said he does not believe that any two men on what are called doctrinal points think alike who think at all. So if you think alike with somebody, you don't think. And it is only those who have not thought that appear to agree. So anybody that believes that great minds think alike, y'all also not. Like, anybody that agrees with that, you're whack. I don't believe anybody with any sense believes that. And so
perspective is individual.
Yes.
Because that doesn't even make sense.
Right.
That doesn't even make sense.
So he was like, taking it back to George Washington, who liked Sterne's work. He was actually, Paine was a huge critic of Washington, and he was upset with Washington that since the Revolutionary War, he didn't do anything about Paine getting imprisoned in France. So he believed that Washington betrayed him, and that he sent a letter to Washington basically saying, like, you're not smart, you're not a good leader, you're an ungrateful person. And Washington did not pay him no mind, paid him no dust. So he hit up publisher Benjamin Bach, who had one of the leading newsletters at the time, to publish a letter to George Washington of 1796. Look it up. He goes hard. He basically kills Washington's reputation. One of the first people to describe Washington as a treacherous man, was not worthy of his political fame. He wasn't a real military dude. Not smart. And he wrote that the world would be puzzled to decide whether you are an imposter or an actual patriot. And so this guy basically was using his platform to say that there's no way you guys call Washington great. Nobody with the right mind thinks that great minds think alike. So that's where the conflict that the other two brought was made plain through this letter, George Washington. It actually still made the phrase more popular, the think alike phrase, but it was, again, in contrast of it actually being true. So, and that's kind of where it stops. That's kind of where it hits. There's no, like, evidence anywhere that I could find of someone standing on this in a way that says yes, they do. So my question there is, do you believe that societal expectations mixed with, like, your own misfortune, would that determine whether the think alike, like how people that think alike will respond? Let's say your friends. Let's say people that you actually rock with. Like, do you think that their circumstances plus societal expectations going to dictate the think alike part between you and them?
To an extent, because what you just said made me think even more so that the statement itself kind of speaks to the wisdom of crowds, right? And that great minds think alike might actually be a pandering term, right? With narrative that's actually condescending, thinking that, okay, we here up here are the leaders, and essentially what we must do is convince the masses to follow us, right? Because when we put things for vote and what have you, we're looking for consensus on one of these few options, right? What could be the best thing we can do in terms of rewarding those people who have voted for the consensus in our favor, right? Reward them with a compliment. All these great minds are thinking alike, right? Just as I want them to.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's what it made me think.
That's exactly what that is.
That's exactly what that is, right? It's like it takes it back, and that's on that you took it. What your very first thought was, you took it to like that is how it basically is used. Like, now you know me. And now y'all thinking like me. See, look at y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to insert this idea inside of this whole thing, and if you decide to go along with the idea, I'm going to say that your mind is great as well as mine.
Mm-hmm.
And don't you love that as a common man?
Don't you love that because of my status, because of where I am in society? To get a compliment from me about your mind can set you off in places that you didn't think you can go.
You didn't even know.
You didn't even know. You didn't even know. Me saying your mind is great is going to project you. I'm talking about you're going to go far with me, kid. You're going to go far. You're going to go far. You know what I'm saying? Now that everybody knows that you have a similar mind to me, you're going to go far. And here come this hating ass dude saying, nah, man, if y'all thinking like all y'all crazy.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the guy that you love, you're president.
The main guy.
You're president.
The main guy.
He sucks.
Sucks. I didn't even bring it up, but I was like, this sounds very presidential, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is election talk.
Oh, yeah. Election talk.
Perfect timing. Dog. Perfect timing.
In its essence, and we'll grade it in a second, in its essence, I think that this phrase, throwing back full of shit, and is based on the history of it, but it's always somebody powerful,
it's a political
somebody
tactic.
Less powerful to get them to ride the train.
Buddy said you wasn't even a patriot.
You're not even a patriot, dog. You're an imposter.
Yeah. You're taking fake pictures. All these pictures of you in these goddamn uniforms is fake. That's what he said. That's what he said to the nigga on the dollar bill.
To the dude on the he's on the cliff. Or what is that? He's on the mountain.
He's on the mountain. Yeah. He's on Rushmore. He's on Rushmore. And he calling him a fraud.
A fake. Now, how much clout Thomas Paine got?
Right. Exactly. Not as much. Not as much, because like you said, that thing ain't even phase him.
It didn't. He ignored it. He ignored it. It only actually. I mean, if you look up the actual letter, like you have to be in the know to know like somebody wrote this letter undercutting him, and this is how you get down that rabbit hole of like, oh man, Washington didn't even have. It wasn't wooden teeth. Wasn't wooden teeth.
Yeah, exactly. Though.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's how you get there, because of guys like Thomas Paine, and it comes from a phrase that is trying to get you to believe that only the greatest folks, all the greatest folks, think the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, it goes back to that situational thing that I was saying. It's like you use that in certain situations. It's not as a situation. It's not a thing of saying we think alike all the time. No, we just think alike in this moment, and it benefits me to say that to you because I need more people to think like me right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. Let's grade it. I need y'all to the apex of this moment. We got to hit it. So, kid, this is how we do it. We have a 3-part grading scale. Power, how much impact does it have when it's heard? You know what I'm saying? When you hear it, when you say it, does it get the job done when you say it? Speed, is it just eloquent? Does it sound good to say, easy to say? Then we got our wild card grade, which is your guess, the guest preference. Any way you want to grade it. It's A through F, pluses, minuses count. 20. Hit us with the power grade, bro.
Yeah, power, I definitely give it an A. I think it's in that realm of A, man. It went back all to what, the 16th and 17th century?
1600, 17th century.
1600, yeah. So, I mean, and you can still hear today. It might not. After the day, I probably look side eye somebody who said it to me. I ain't gonna lie, kid. After the day, you're gonna really have to come correct after that if you say that to me. But yeah, man, it's still, like I said, it's still hitting, man. It's still hitting. It still kind of pacifies the masses too as well. So yeah, I give it an A on the power.
Heard that. All right, with the speed, great minds think alike. It's almost I'm gonna go B plus. I'm gonna go B plus because while none of the words I think are cool in any sense, I think great. Like there's words I think are sweet to say because of what they mean. Great is one of those things. You say great enough, you might feel great, but it's not actually that eloquent. But it's short enough that people can say it. Great minds think alike, and nothing. It didn't stop the flow. It didn't stop the flow. If nothing else, it enhanced the situation. If nothing else, so I'm gonna give it a B plus. All right, Ken, what you got?
I'm gonna give it an A. I mean, quite honestly, I was impressed that it had stood the test of time so long after you ran down the history.
Yeah.
Right. And in an era in which pop culture is moving like, at the pace of 2-3 million videos a day, right, across platforms, like there really just aren't many things that stand that test of time, right? And great minds think alike. It has. And this conversation also made me think of how few people probably think about what it really means when they say it. Like, it's just one of those things that so easily rolls off the tongue. Right. Like you just think it's appropriate to say when someone has said something that you were thinking. Like, that's, I think, the meaning today, right? Something that's just a little bit more coincidental in that regard. But this conversation really had me thinking of it like in full-on political slogan technique.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a weapon. It's a weapon.
Yeah.
It's a weapon. Hey. Man, we got it. We made it through. Appreciate y'all patience. Ken, thank you for the gems. We got one more thing before we get out of here. And that is
the Dictionary of Misinformation.
All right, 20.
Ken, if you love how we've been misinformed about this phrase, then you're gonna love this segment, brother. It's what me and Mario call the Dictionary of Misinformation. Man, we have this book that we found that gives us information about things that we've been misinformed about. What we ask our guests is to give us a letter from A through Z. X is already taken because we've
Z's
had
out too now.
A Z's out too?
I think Z's out.
Oh, okay, because we had some petty guests and they like to challenge us. But yeah, so from what? I guess Y. A through you said I?
Y.
Skip Y and skip X. Yeah, right. I think that's as far as it goes now. Man, we killed Z. Wow.
Killed Z. I mean, four seasons.
4 seasons. All right. So what we just doing is actually you pick just any letter randomly, and we're going to find some information about it that we can go ahead and share with the world.
Just a letter?
Just a letter.
K.
K it is. K. Okay.
Okay. We don't get K very often.
There should be some good ones, man.
Yeah, I would think so.
There should be some good ones.
I would think so. Here we go. Let's go. All right, it's not many. We're going to go Klondike.
What would you do?
What would you do? Adventure tales notwithstanding, neither the general area known as the Klondike nor its best-known town, Dawson City, is in Alaska. They're both in Yukon Territory, which is in Canada. So the Klondike, incidentally, is not a province, nor is Dawson City, the capital of the territory, Whitehorse is. So that panda, the polar bear, the polar bear on the Klondike bar, lies. Klondike is not in Alaska. There might be polar bears in Canada. I did not research.
But the polar bear is lost.
It's lost. That polar bear is lost.
Because he ain't supposed to be there.
He ain't supposed to be there. Hey, man, we going to get out of here, Ken. Before we got here, anything you want to leave the people with, Ken, man?
Line that's Klondike bars.
Yeah.
Nah, man. Hey, this has been great. What I will say, if you're interested in any more of what we've talked about here from my side of the fence, check me out on LinkedIn, Ken Gibbs Jr. On most platforms. I'm going to be rolling out a newsletter on LinkedIn this week, actually. It's got to happen now because I spoke it out here. But essentially, it's called Art versus Inventory, and it'll be a monthly newsletter that'll essentially be me sharing theories on how social media is changing the professional landscape for the media world, but also our society as well.
Nice. Oh, I can't wait for that.
That's dope, man.
I can't wait for that. Appreciate you, man. Leave us with something, man.
Hey, man. Just read more, man. Read more, learn more, man. Grab some more information, however you can. Our platform is definitely about just asking more than one question, digging a little bit, man. You never know what you could find if you just dig a little bit more. So I'm just telling people, dig a little bit more, man. Dig a little bit more, whatever. Everything is not always on the surface. You can really find some gems if you kind of just put a little more effort into it.
Yeah, I'm with that, man.
Great.
I'm with that. Thank y'all. All I have to say is that we are brought to you by the Underdog Podcast Network. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, AppaiseThePhrase.com, AppaiseThePhrase.com/shop for other things. Raise the Bar Initiative. Gotta teach the youth. And always remember that value is in the eye of the appraiser. We will catch y'all next week.
Yeah.